What up, perps? Kid Copious, sporting a new rig. Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here. We're repping America, the center, and common sense. Yeah. You're feeling a bit skibbity. This one goes out to you. Yeah, there you go. Old style poppers. I had to resort to the old school poppers there. Nobody does inventory control around here, so I ran out of ammunition for my Fetty gun. Oh, please send Fetty cartridges. Anyhow, got the new rig here, as you can see. I don't particularly like it being in the frame because I just want my beautiful face there. But hey, it might sound better. I hope it sounds better. But I got this for my birthday. It's my birthday recently. It's been a stressful couple days. My birthday marks the anniversary of my dad dying last year. My brother going off the rails. It's been fucking crazy, man. But one highlight that happened after last week's show was a friend of mine came in from Arizona, and we got talking, and whatever. And he was talking about how he had forgotten that when you're going along California freeways, motorcycles can split the lanes, go in between two cars at speed. And I said, yeah, I know. It's California is like the only state that allows people to split lanes. And he said, no, they allowed it in Arizona, but only when traffic is 10 miles an hour or less. So if you're in like stop and go traffic, we all, if you live anywhere near LA, big cities like that, you know what I mean. But then the motorcycle can split lanes. I thought, damn, I mean, that is just, that's just the kind of common sense that I always mention at the opening here, It makes sense. Why should the motorcyclist have to stay in a lane and start and stop with all of that? It's probably more dangerous for a motorcycle in traffic to be in a lane as opposed to skipping up, skibbity-doop right up the lane and getting out of traffic. And he said one of the other things he noticed there was, politics doesn't come into every conversation. And I feel like it does here. I mean, maybe it's a bit biased, I tend to like to ask people questions, find out what people actually think. Random people, I don't select people. I just, whoever I run into, sometimes I'll just ask them if, if they seem like they might have an opinion on something. How do you feel about this? But, that doesn't go on as much in other states. And one of the reasons is because here in California, we're constantly reminded of the government. Constantly. A good example is road work. We pay a lot in gas taxes, but we don't see it. And it's also unsettling because here we have a state government that hands down laws that dictate what everybody in the state has to do. It's unsettling that they are going to mandate all cars in California must be electric. I don't want an electric vehicle, especially at the age that I'm going to be, If, I'm in my 70s and I can buy a new car, I certainly don't want it to be an EV. They want to take away gas stoves. I like cooking over flames. I like the fact that a gas stove will work in a blackout. We don't have a lot of blackouts here because we don't have the same sort of like weather events that other people have in other states. I get that, but we do have blackouts. And with the unreliability of all this green energy, who knows how many more are on the horizons? I don't like the fact I don't smoke menthols. I don't like menthols. But people do. But that choice has been taken away. Oh, it's too dangerous. Well, if it's too dangerous, then people shouldn't do it. But that's their choice. I don't choose to let criminals out of jail as quickly as possible like they do in some parts of California with these lax DAs. I don't like the idea of sanctuary cities. I don't like the idea of being told we have to live with the homeless. That's fine. If you're legitimately homeless, man, get all the help you need. But a lot of the people, and that's who we're talking about here, a lot of the people on the streets are just drug addicts. They can't live at home. They can't live with friends. They can't live with family because they're fucking drug addicts. And they plague our streets. Every day I see them, and every day I'm being prepared for this just random shit that could happen. And I also don't like that here in California, when we were going to repeal the state's ability to just simply raise gas taxes, they coded it in this visage of, oh, road safety. So if you vote against it, you're voting against road safety. And now they can raise the gas tax whenever they want, and they still don't have to show a shit for it. And that's what concerns me. It's not necessarily the policies that are coming out of the left that I have a problem with, although there are a lot. It's the fact that they're willing to tell us, they're willing to overly enforce these things, and they're forcing on us bad choices. Sanctuary cities, the homeless, telling us what we can cook with. These are not American ideas. These are communist ideas. These are leftist ideas. To simply outlaw, ban, and instruct us to do things in the name of safety without ever proving the safety, without ever looking at the substitutions and where the substitutions are going to fail. They're going to take away our gas cars but give us EV. Pollute the planet over here instead of polluting it over here. Same fucking thing. You know, we've talked about it on this show before. You know, the car tires are one of the biggest contributors to the air pollution that we breathe daily in our cities. And EVs put out more of that. But now we're being told, even though it doesn't make sense, we are being ordered by our government. And that's what really makes me afraid. Now, yeah, I know that there are things on the right that are the same way. They want to outlaw abortion, for example, take away that right. I'm not for that, but when you stack them all up and you look at what appeals, you know, what actually would, be on my shoulders, wow, that's like one issue against the whole bunch. I find the most persuasive arguments to be the ones where you present facts and you don't argue back, okay? And that's what I try to do here. You know, I'm not always successful, but I just want to put information out there and let people make up their own minds. I want to guide them towards realizing that we have to start thinking more in the middle because the extremes are killing us. You know, Governor Youngkin in Virginia undid the state's edict that everybody was going to drive electric vehicles. And I found this amongst the article, and I thought this really bared repeating. The idea that government should tell people what kind of car they can or cannot purchase is fundamentally wrong. Virginians deserve the freedom to choose which vehicles best fit the needs of their families and businesses. The law is clear, and I'm proud to announce Virginians will no longer be forced to live under this out-of-touch policy. And that's what I'm trying to get to. I would like to see America get to, where we're no longer forced to live under out-of-touch policies. And that goes for both sides. But this really hits at something that's important to me. I don't like the idea of driving an electric vehicle. I work with electricity. I know how temperamental it is. And I got to say that if I was going to put my life in the hands of, fossil fuels or this green energy, I would put my safety, my long-term survivability in the hands of fossil fuels. I understand solar panels and windmills have their place. But we're seeing right now, coastlines being ruined by windmills. Birds, whales, all kinds of species being affected, tripling their normal numbers in deaths in areas where this green energy is. So I don't really want to be forced into it. I'll go along with some of it, but I don't want to be forced into it. And if we're ever going to get to that day where the government stops forcing itself upon us, we're going to have to get the leftists out of office. Kamala Harris from the Babylon Bee here. I will fix things if you vote me into office, says woman currently in office. Hasn't she proven herself already to be an ineffective leader? Hasn't she proven herself the last person who should be leading the charge into the future? The Democrats played a game in which they held off taking out Biden until after the primaries so they could put her in and force people to vote for her instead of Trump. She doesn't deserve it. She never would have earned it. And I'm not just saying that because I don't like her. I'm saying that because the primary numbers from 2020 bear it out. This is a great one right here, where she cast a deciding vote to stick IRS agents on tip workers. And now Trump has said he's not going to tax tips. So she flip-flops because she finds it's a very political advantageous position to take. She is not coming in with original ideas. She doesn't have original ideas. I love how Bronco's setting this up already. He's got the word salad right there, just like Biden's sippy cup. But one of the things that I saw that was very interesting in this particular flip-flop here is that when Trump announced that, CBS News immediately talked about how that would be the downfall of our economy and the downfall of America and a threat to democracy. But then as soon as Kamala co-signs it, they flip-flop. And it's really funny that they do it for Kamala, because remember, Kamala Harris once said she wouldn't take any vaccine developed under Trump. And then, boom, she's right there co-signing all the papers that force people out of their jobs for not getting vaccinated. That's who you're voting for if you're even remotely thinking about her. If you can't vote for Trump, I get it. But RFK or stay away. Do not let her in the office. She's an embarrassment. I want equity, be honest. I want equal outcomes, be honest. I want communism. Thank you. The only way for the left ideas to be enforced is through some form of communism, where the government forces us to do things we don't want to do. And the worst part about this is, like I've said before, man, if you are skipping over qualified applicants to get to the white people, that's wrong. But if you're skipping over qualified people to get to the equity, that's also wrong. In a lot of jobs, it cannot go that way. We cannot guarantee equal outcomes. The only way that happens is if the government controls every aspect of our lives and says from now on, doctors will only make this amount of money. Because that's the only way it'll be equal. Because the doctors who make the most money are the best at their jobs. And if that doesn't fit into your little equity box, how are you going to change it? Huh? Another really disappointing thing about this administration. Have Americans held by Hamas become an afterthought? Yeah, there are 6 Americans still being held captive in Gaza. And while Biden's pushing for a ceasefire, he does not even bring up the hostages. 2 weeks ago, he had a call with Netanyahu. He mentioned support for Israel against threats from Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, but made no mention of the hostages. Because they don't care about Americans. Joe Biden, the left, their voters want a ceasefire. That's what's important to him. Getting what the voters want. But not all the voters. Not even all the Democrat voters. A portion of them. We're going to lock down the radicals. We're going to lock down the Antifa vote because we're going to stand up to Israel and say, ceasefire. Let the terrorists win. But meanwhile, hackers steal every American Social Security number. Yeah. Public advocates fear that a possible tsunami of identity theft is coming after a hacking group was able to steal the personal records of nearly 3 billion people. Isn't that great? This company offered personal information to employers, private investigators, and others who do background checks. And they were hacked. I know we got people working on this, but I would say if shit like this happens, we don't have enough people working on it. Instead of hiring IRS agents, why don't you hire freaking computer warriors? Get our cyber troops out there. Fuck the Space Force, dude. We need the Cyber Force. Cyber Force, saving the day from the evils of Dr. Resistor. Yeah, I went with Dr. Resistor. Because the people on the left seem to think they're the resistance, even though they're the ones building a bigger government. How do you build a bigger government and say that you're the rebels? Anyhow, back to the point. This U.S. DOD reportedly tried to sell the data for 3.5 million, but has now posted most of it for free. And it's been checked by news agents who say, yeah, it looks real. Isn't that great? So, some tips up on the screen right there. Fortunately, for a lot of us, the easiest way to avoid identity theft is to be worthless. Oh, man. Speaking of worthless, California. California says it lost $2 billion in state income taxes from earners leaving. Look, that's a small drop in the bucket, but you put enough drops in a bucket and then it overflows. Here's some freaking numbers. I don't really care about all that. Moving on. California oil refineries must stockpile gasoline to avoid price spikes, Gavin Newsom says. Yeah, you know what's going to cause the price to spike? Telling the oil companies, hey, instead of selling that oil, you got to put it in reserve. How are they going to pump more? Are you going to allow them to pump more? Can they pump enough so that they can put X amount into reserve and still sell X amount? No, you won't let them do it here. Oh, it's just, but a bit of the sanity coming back. Gavin Newsom's EV mandate is under U.S. Supreme Court threat. I wonder which way this writer leans. Perfect example right there. Under review. No, under threat. Yeah, sweeping measures. This is just wonderful. Democrats paid $12.5 million to Trump judge's daughter in first 6 months of 2024. And sure, they did it all legally, right? They filed it through this company, Authentic Campaigns. All right? So she's out on social media promoting them. I don't know. I haven't looked into Authentic Campaigns. If I find out that it's just one person fucking sending out tweets and Instagrams every day, I wouldn't be surprised. But in the previous years, she was getting about 6.8. So it almost doubled. I think the exact number there is 86%. But yeah, they essentially legally bribed this judge so that he wouldn't make rulings that ended the Trump hush money trial, which was not a hush money trial to begin with. It was about what? I don't know. There's some sort of ethics violation in business. The statute of limitations had run out. So they give this judge's daughter $12 million for her fucking little campaign influencer or whatever. Now, this is another lie that's going around. Make no mistake, violent crime was up under Trump. Well, it wasn't. It just wasn't. Axio had a headline, new data shows violent crime dropping sharply in major U.S. cities. Right? Pete Buttigieg, if you look this up at home, you will know that crime went down under Biden and crime went up under Trump. Right. But the opposite is actually true. During Trump's term, it fell by 17%. Under Biden, just in 1 year, it went up 43%. Why? Because Biden signaled to all of the radicals out there, have at it, we're not going to stand in your way. And one of the reasons is because the FBI has put these requirements in place for reporting, and fewer than half of all police departments are providing complete crime data to the FBI since its reporting system changed in 2021. So the reported crimes to the FBI have fallen. So they say, crime numbers have fallen. It's not true. Calling 911 isn't enough. A crime only officially counts in the FBI's data if the police have made out a report and then send it to the FBI. Right? The CDC relies on more of asking people if they've been a victim of a violent crime, those kind of surveys. And that's showing that it's peaked in 2021. It remained high in 2022, higher than in 2020. We know that victims don't report most crimes to the police. Yeah. Last remaining Denny's in San Francisco closes over a plague of dine and dashers. San Francisco has no more Denny's. I mean, see, these are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. Not only do we not agree to just let criminals out, and play fast and loose with sentencing, we now have to lose a Denny's. There's no Denny's in San Francisco. I happen to be a big fan of Denny's, if you can't tell. But there's none in San Francisco because of their stupid laws. 25 years it was there. We're the only store left, and we operated until the last day we could, says Chris Haig. Yeah, 24-hour diner, gone. And others have left. It doesn't, look, that doesn't really matter, okay? Denny's operates in has 1,700 restaurants in several countries: Mexico, Puerto Rico, Philippines, the United Arab Emirates, Honduras, U.S. and Canada. They're not closing all of those down. It's the shit. It's the shit that's being forced upon us by politicians from one party. All right? The reason why Biden takes these hits, at least in my opinion, is because it's his philosophies that Newsom applies, that Breed applies, that Pamela Price applies. Far left ideology, extremist, leftist. When I say Biden, you say leftist. Biden. And that's the way it goes. That's what I'm trying. That's the part that I'm hoping to get through to people. That whether or not you support the leftist ideology, maybe you're a moderate Democrat. They're not playing the moderate game right now. The cost of business is tremendous. This is from the owner. There's vandalism, and people come and eat and walk away, and there's no one to stop them. When you're a victim of a crime and you feel like the criminal's just going to get away with it, it hurts you in the soul, man. And these are government edicts that are causing this. This isn't the people. So when I saw this headline, I was intrigued. I was wondering where he was going. And then I realized it was the Chicago Sun-Times. I protested Vietnam War at the Democratic National Convention in 1968. This year, I'll rally for our nation's future. I thought maybe he's talking about voting for Trump because the Democrats acted so undemocratically. But, you know, he talks here about when he was 18, 9 of his friends were killed fighting for their country. Mass casualties stood at nearly 17,000. The Tet Offensive, the assassination of MLK, mass civil unrest were all factors in his decision to march arm in arm with his friends and strangers. Marching over a real issue. Yeah, it was different back then. They marched over something that was just illogical. Our involvement in Vietnam, sadly, and I'm not mad about it. I'm not, throwing blame at people or anything like that. I don't care about that. But the Vietnam War was a bit of a oopsie on our part. Probably shouldn't have been there as long as we were. We were trying to stop communism. But I understood the people who protested the war, not the ones who spit on the Marines when they came back, because fuck those people. But I understand the protests. But here he's talking about 56 years later, he'll be there spiritually with his dad, holding a sign, Harris Waltz for 2024. We will link arms in solidarity and let big government know that we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to take it. Yeah, we're not going to. You idiot. Harris Waltz is big government. They're big government. Look at in California lost a shit ton of jobs, but actually gained jobs because they covered the losses and had 300,000 extra government jobs. That's one of the tricks that the Democrats like to use. They create government jobs so that they could say they have job growth. But it's all taxpayer money going to bullshit things. If Gavin Newsom gives money to a startup that's going to hand out syringes to drug addicts on the streets, those are jobs connected to the government. They receive all their money from the government. They're government funded. They are big government. And beyond being big government, they're dumb government. They're stupid government. They're absurd government. And they're like dictators. Tim Walz ordered the police to enforce his curfew by shooting paintballs at residents as they stood in their doorways. All right, this obviously happened during the pandemic, but this is a resurfaced clip filmed from May 2020, and it shows a tan Humvee rolling slowly down a quiet street, followed by at least 25 heavily armed cops. I don't like to post those kind of videos here. Look it up for yourself if you want to see it. But yeah, the police opened fire with paintballs while they stood in their porches in their front driveways to enforce their curfew to save them from COVID. Yeah, he turned the famously neighborly North Star State residents against each other. He had a hotline that allowed Minnesotans to snitch on each other for violating social distancing protocols. So you could just report people and somebody would show up to deal with it. Remember how they dealt with it in Australia? They locked you in like internment camps. One of the GOP state reps put it best, that the hotline amounted to ratting on neighbors and accused Walz of implementing big government intrusion. That's what these people are. These people don't give a shit about our opinion. They think they're smarter than us because they went to some fancy fucking college and they're not affected by their decisions. So therefore, they are just going to enforce them on people. If you don't like it, too fucking bad. And in places like California, what do we have? What are our options? What are our options if, God forbid, Harris Walz gets in there and starts just laying out edicts across the board? What are we going to be able to do about it? Belgium bans Jews from sporting events like it was World War II. I didn't clip the whole article, but there was a Frisbee team. They received a vague threat, not even really a threat, but there was graffiti sprayed on the area where they were going to play. So the organizers asked the Jews to leave, pull out of the tournament. And they also said you can't come by and watch. Instead of going after the people who would do evil, they went after the angels because it's easier. And because at the end of the day, Democrats are racist. Look, anybody who promotes these theories or over promotes these theories, or even to some degree carry the sign or wave the banner, they're covering for their own racism. That's why things like all lives matter was labeled as a racist saying, even though it makes perfect sense. And the reason why these things happen can be summed up by Bronco. He didn't even draw a cartoon for this. The woke be kind people are some of the least kind people I know. The worst human being I know. The meanest human being I know. The most callous, the most narcissistic person I know loves Harris Walz. Loves Joe Biden. Loves Nancy Pelosi. Loves Gavin Newsom. Will not hear a bad word about Gavin Newsom. Even when he was looking for menthol cigarettes, but he couldn't find any because they're not allowed here anymore. And he had to go to Nevada to get them. Still wouldn't say a bad thing about Gavin Newsom. That's who these people are. Look, we can't afford to have 4 more years of leftism. Pure and simple. And Kamala Harris is embarrassing. I don't want her out there as the United States representative. God, it's bad enough that she's even associated with the government. She has no ideas, and she's even more of a puppet than Brandon. If you can't vote for Trump, cool, whatever, I gotcha. RFK or stay away. And maybe, just maybe, if we could stamp out leftism, maybe purpleism can take hold in the void. Speaking of voids, that's me, Kid Copious, Purple State Party. And so are you. Love one another. Vote with your head, not your heart. And when life gets you down and you're feeling all Sigma, dance it out.